Hi, this is Aaron Eisberg-Nog from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you're listening to Beyond Trek. You can follow them on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod and on Facebook at Beyond Trek Productions.
This is Beyond Trek Podcast, your source for Star Trek on social media and around the web. I'm Big J.
I'm Murray.
And I'm Dag, the Trivia Master. You can find us on Facebook at Beyond Trek Podcast and on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod.
Red alert.
We've got here with us today Argus, and Argus is going to be our inside man, like our inside man correspondent. We're going to be talking about the community, reddit.com/r/Picard. And recently, r/Picard has seen a uptick in their subscribers. We are touting that as the official community on Reddit for the upcoming TV show, Star Trek Picard. And right now, the community has, I'm seeing 4,724 readers. And just a couple weeks ago, it was floating around, I want to say about 2,000 or so. Now, it's been a community for 8 years and started out just as a community to celebrate and honor Jean-Luc Picard. Went kind of in a dry spell, it appears, but then rumors were going around that the new Star Trek series would be called Picard. And as I've seen on this community, on this social media site, that the communities tend to name their subreddits after the actual names of the shows. And Argus, you're the inside guy now. Tell us what is it that you've seen from your end of it that has happened since the official announcement on the name of the show?
It has been an absolute explosion. I don't really know how else to put it. There have been a lot of subreddits kicking around dedicated to various characters from Star Trek history, and this stuff was banging around back when Star Trek was dead. Before even the reboot movies, the J.J. Abrams movies. There were dedicated subreddits. So I think that it was just fortuitous that it happened to come along and happened to be named after such a beloved character that had a subreddit dedicated to his name.
Now, it kind of seems like you guys were in the right place at the right time, and that really kicked up the popularity that you've got there. So now I take it you've seen the new trailer for the show and have been engaged in it must have been like floodgates opening and people just diving in. Were you even prepared for something like that to happen, or did you have a feeling once the official name of the show was announced? Was there a feeling of I don't want to say dread, but I think I see what's happening or what's going to happen. Was there kind of some trepidation once that was announced, because now you're you're looking at the community and there's going to be an influx of people, and how do we deal with that?
Yeah, well, we absolutely knew that there was going to be an explosion in the subscriber base. Obviously, no question about that. And that was pretty clear before they even announced the name of the show. When they said that Patrick Stewart was going to be revisiting the role of Picard. Obviously, the associated subreddit is going to get an awful lot of traffic, even if they'd called it something else. But we see a surge in activity every time some sort of new tidbit comes out about the show. For a while there were posts and theories about what's the deal with the dog. You may recall they released the one still for the show that shows Picard standing there with a dog. And that's it. That's all they gave us. And so, that generated some conversation. Obviously, with both the teaser trailer and the full trailer, the subreddit has gone absolutely nuts. I think I've already seen it spawn a couple of memes, tons of fan theories. Everybody is, looking at who's on the cast and and it's not just a one-off thing. People have a chance to go back to the trailer and sort of mine it for additional details. Somebody spotted a sign on one of the facilities that's visible in the trailer that says this facility has gone for 5,843 days without an assimilation.
Yes.
So spotting Easter eggs, just all kinds of stuff in there for people to find and post about. So it's great. I look forward to more trailers, more publicity, and more bursts in activity in the run up to the actual show.
Now, while you're talking about that part of the trailer, and you're right, every frame of this trailer has been talked about, analyzed, investigated, and I'm looking at I just went through the trailer again, and it's the Star Trek Picard SDCC trailer, short for San Diego Comic Con, and you've got two guards up on a catwalk. Behind them is what really looks like Borg alcoves, and the guard on the left looks very much Romulan, and the writing where you're talking about, it's kind of like an OSHA warning, or a notification about how many days without an accident kind of thing. But I've heard or seen that the writing that's just to the right of that is Romulan, which I couldn't argue against that. I don't believe I've ever really seen the writing, but I guess that makes sense. But it almost seems like this is some kind of prison facility. And if that's the case, if you've got guards and you have these, these things, there's been over 5,000 days without an assimilation, that just makes me wonder. So what is this? What can this be that looks like it's a holding area run by a couple Romulan, or at least one definitely looking Romulan guard? I'm not sure I recognize who the guy on the right could be, but what is this? What are your theories on just the setting of this piece right here? Because then short seconds later we see the main protagonist, female. We don't know who she is. Picard seems to think he knows her. So what are your theories on this? What could this be?
So I think that if you pay attention to the trailer, it tells a pretty coherent story about Starfleet trying to get the Borg under control. I think that's what we are going to see. We're going to see the aftermath of a conflict with the Borg, or perhaps a project to try and declaw them, as it were. Early on in the trailer, we see someone laid out on a bio bed with holographic displays around them. It looks like they have Borg implants on their body. It looks like somebody has pulled off part of a Borg face implant and set it beside their face. So I read that as it being a shot of someone being deborgified, if you will. I think that our unnamed female protagonist is probably ex-Borg or some sort of weird Borg hybrid. And my guess is that holding facility is where the Federation or whatever alliance that came together to try and take the Borg down. I think that's where they're holding the deborgified prisoners that can't be rendered, not dangerous to the rest of the Federation. We also see that picture of the that image of the Borg cube with the force fields reinforcing big chunks of it that are missing. And the portion of the show that we see where Picard is actually on a ship looks an awful lot to me like it's flying around inside the superstructure of that massive Borg cube.
Okay.
So I think we are going to see some sort of adventure to free the rest of the Borg from the tyranny of the Federation. That's my guess. Whatever organization is holding these Borg together, or rather holding them in these pens, I think we're going to see Picard try and get those people their freedom. And I think that plays into this theme of him being disillusioned with Starfleet in presumably the wake of the destruction of Romulus.
And some say that this particular Borg cube may tie into what is not officially canon, but tie into the Narada from Star Trek 2009. There's always comics and background info that suggested that ship was the product of Romulans having captured a Borg cube and augmenting that ship with Borg technology, which it kind of explains why the hell do you have a mining ship of that size that looks like that? very, very odd design that it had for whatever its purpose was. And that's kind of how they explained it in the background. And we've already seen that this show is going to make some references to. It's not going to be for just the flyby fan. It's not going to be for the large audience. You really need to have seen quite a bit. Some certain episodes of Next Gen, particular episodes of Voyager. This is not just a sit down and watch it and know what's going on kind of thing, which honestly, that part doesn't bother me.
No, nor does it bother me. And at the risk of, I don't know, it seems to me it merits some sort of special spoiler alert to say that I'm about to reveal something that hasn't been in any of the official announcements or anything. But I'm hearing that it's been confirmed that Hugh, the individual Borg, is going to come back for at least the first episode of Picard, or early on in the show. And so that's another fairly deep cut. They're bringing in 7 of 9, so it's not just Picard from TNG, but we've also got 7 from Voyager. And I'm super okay with that. I think that one of the things that will benefit the Star Trek brand is to have sort of this handing off of the torch from the classic universe, if you will, to whatever they want to do with the new universe. And I think that may be one of the reasons that Discovery didn't land with the fans, quite as hard as it might have, is because there was this radical disconnect from what had come before. There were no characters that we knew, and by the time they started introducing characters that we knew, they were played by different actors. And I think that they have a real opportunity here to create a sense of continuity that I think is important for the fandom, that the fandom hasn't had in a long time. Star Trek was dead for a while until the J.J. Abrams movies came out, and they were a completely different thing. So I think this is really Star Trek returning to form, and I think that's going to do a lot to generate goodwill among the fan base.
One of the really cool things is that Jonathan Del Arco, the actor who played Hugh in those episodes, has confirmed and was present at the panel at SDCC. Hugh will return in Star Trek Picard.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. I wasn't sure what the actual source of that was. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to watch all the panels and everything. But yeah, that is awesome. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I sat down and I watched the panels I was doing tweet storming. I was all over the place with social media watching this panel unfold. It was incredibly exhilarating to see, the opening of the trailer and I, instantly, the way we are these days, you start mining it for that content. What's going on? And then it totally stopped when you see 7 of 9 and you're like, okay, I'm done. And then, of course, Brent Spiner at the end there, who is playing, hopefully, obviously a Soong-type android, but will it be Data?
Well, yes, he has said that he's playing Data.
That's a spoiler. No, I'm kidding.
Well, and so yeah, he's and going back just real quick, you're right. Dag was he was a machine this past Saturday in regards to keeping up on the social media end. We were sending out some tweets. We got one that Jerry Ryan had retweeted, and that was a big day for us because that right there had some more folks looking at the stuff we were going to be doing. We talked about how we were going to be recording for the reactions and input and first impressions of the trailer. But now you mentioned Brent Spiner and Data. And there's been speculation all week about is this actually Data? Wasn't he destroyed? Is it B4, et cetera, et cetera? So Argus, I'm going to share this with you just to see what you think. This is a theory I've been working on all week, and really,
okay.
Dad came up with this first, and I went back and rewatched, re-listened, reread some interviews, and so here's what I've pieced together. Now, Brent Spiner has gone on record as saying B4 was the android in the drawer, and that, quote unquote, I am playing Data. So he said he is Data, and everyone's saying, well, okay, so in Star Trek Nemesis, Data did a copy and paste of himself to B4, and so is this, the body of B4, but the mind and programming of Data. So Dag brought up, he said that this has to be a hologram. This is a hologram of Data. And I went back, and one of the things was because he referred to Jean-Luc as Captain. So I called him Captain. That was one tip off. And as I went and watched it again, I told him, I think, Dag, you remember me saying this, the very close, very tight shot of Data seemed suspicious to me. Like there was just something about it that seemed very intentional, that they were so close in on his face, on his head like that. So I took the pieces where he said, I'm playing Data, and this very close-in shot, the thought that Dag had, said that he's probably hologram. And if you watch the trailer from SDCC, this is about, and this shows you how bad this is for me to be analyzing frame by frame. So right about at the 2 minute 1 second, 2 minute 2 second mark, you see the camera shift ever so slightly, and you can tell he's wearing kind of like a yellow collar, a gold collar, kind of something. But that shift, that little bit of a shift, if you look at it, is showing a little bit of gray shoulder. So here's my thought: this is a hologram of him as Picard last remembered him, which means that this is Data as a hologram, and he's wearing his uniform that he wore in First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. So if you pull up that uniform, if we had seen any more of it, I think that would have been a dead giveaway. And my thought is that is why we have such a tight close-up on his face, because of the fact that we would know right away if we saw too much of the uniform that he must be a hologram.
Yeah, and I think that fits really well with the dialogue in that scene too. Now that you mention it, Data says, or Picard says, "I don't want the game to end," and Data says, "That much is clear." If he's brought Data back to play cards with him as a hologram, well, yeah, it's definitely clear Picard doesn't want the game to end, and it's that much more laden with meaning now that Data is gone. But I think my guess would be that we are going to see Brent Spiner in both roles. I think we're going to see him as Data, probably in a hologram, but potentially in a flashback or something like that, dream sequence, take your pick. But I'm hoping we're also going to get to the opportunity to see what's become of B4 over the last 20 years. Data had been, he was activated, I think it was 26 years before the beginning of TNG. So B4 hasn't been around for quite that long yet, but he's been imprinted with Data's memories. We don't know how those are going to affect him, but they're there. So he's got a little bit of a head start. So are we going to see a character who's in a similar place to Data around the beginning of TNG? Or are they what might they choose to do with that character? I think there are a lot of really exciting possibilities.
I have since refined my theory about that. You're very much right. Patrick Stewart said in an interview recently that there's going to be a flashback sequence, and all the effort that he went to at the beginning to not be in a uniform, he actually reversed that and said in the flashback he has to wear a uniform. So Jean-Luc Picard's going to be wearing a uniform in the flashback, and I do believe that the flashback will have Data featured. My thoughts are that in the scene in the trailer, Jean-Luc Picard is visiting B4, say, at the Daystrom Institute, where he's being kept in observation, and he visits him and plays poker with him, just like we would our grandmothers at convalescent homes.
Oh, that's a great idea. I would love to see. I would love to see that. I would hate to see B4 basically unable to escape the fate that almost claimed Data in The Measure of a Man. I'd prefer to think that B4 is out in the world, running around, doing things, being a sentient being and contributing to conscious existence, rather than hanging out at the Daystrom Institute. But you could very well be right.
Well, I tend to think that that the sophistication of data hasn't emerged yet, and B4 might, at this point, developmentally speaking, be a danger to himself and others, which is why he's at the Daystrom Institute, and he refers to Picard as captain because he was either unaware of or could not make sense of a promotion.
Well, but why would they have him disassembled in a drawer? And then why would they, when Picard shows up, like, hey, can you put this guy together real quick? I want to play a hand of cards. And I get what you're saying, but it's like that part just seems a little, yes, we all keep our old androids in the drawer, but
I have one now.
Right. Yeah, I think we all do, but I don't know. That just seems to be kind of a.
All right, here's my Mr. Fantastic reach. In the drawer, I think the guy in the drawer is Lore, and I think they're going to dump Data's consciousness from B4 into Lore, because Lore was said to be a bit more sophisticated.
I mean, and you're right.
And that's why I said it's my Mr. Fantastic reach.
Indeed. No, it's starting to sound like an episode of Heroes. You're going all out at this point.
Well, it's possible because they do. I mean, in Starfleet's possession, they have the bodies of two soon androids. True. Yeah, they have Lore and they have B4. So this could be either of them, but we've already, unless it's a misdirect, we've already been told a couple times that this particular one in the drawer is B4. So, whether Lore is incorporated at any point or not, I don't know. I feel that would be a little redundant. It's like, okay, well, we have B4 and we have Lore. So I don't think they need to put special emphasis on both. They can just pick one, and even if they didn't bring up Lore at all, I'm fine with that. I get it. They've got a couple old androids on hand, and whatever. So yeah, that's fine.
Before we spin too much off into Mr. Fantastic theories, I wanna ask Argos, what are you most excited about now that Star Trek is moving into the future again?
Oh man, there is so much to be excited about for Star Trek moving into the future. And this has been a drum that I've been beating ever since Enterprise, and they decided to take Star Trek back in time. I am thrilled to see the future of technology in this world. Star Trek's computer interfaces have become our reality. We have cell phones that are vastly more capable than the pads used in Star Trek. There are things that have become anachronisms, like the notion of seeing someone with several pads on their desk with like crew rosters and various different pieces of information. Like, why would you sit at a desk with 7 iPads? That makes no sense to anybody. So I'm thrilled to see the future vision of technology that is coming now that current technology is sort of caught up.
Report. Sir, an unknown signal has interfered with the podcast.
Can you locate it?
Originating from Earth. It's a site called Anchor.fm.
Open the channel.
This is the part where I shill for Anchor.fm. Let's see. Anchor.fm has a complete toolbox that gives you total creative freedom to produce shows right from your ship's computer or personal communicator. Wait, what? And they take care of all the distribution so it shows up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of other places? And it's free? A wise man can hear profit in the wind. Rule of acquisition 22. Wait, there's more? They'll give you Latinum? No? Just whatever money passes for currency on 21st century Earth? Good enough. Get on your pad and download the app, or bring up Anchor.fm right away. And remember Rule of Acquisition 33. It never hurts to suck up to the boss.
Close the channel. We need to get the podcast back online.
Boosting the signal gain now through the main deflector dish.
And we do see some of that holographic interface in the trailer. We see that both in the medical scene, and then we see it also on the actual bridge of the ship. So that's really cool to see. One of the other pieces of tech that was great to see was the transporter doorways. We get just a glimpse of those in the background. Yeah, absolutely. And that is a great way to handle that. I think that's delightful. I'm really interested to see the future of Starfleet. What's happened in these intervening 20 years and how has Starfleet responded? We know what Starfleet was like in the original series era. We know what it was like about 100 years later in the TNG to Voyager era. What's changed? What's changed over these 20 years? I'm interested to see what new places we can go now. Are we still using standard warp technology, or do we maybe have a better handle on slipstream drive? Now that we have presumably conquered or made friends of the Borg or whatever's going on there, now that we're involved with Borg technology, do we have access to transwarp conduits? Does the Federation have access to parts of the galaxy that they haven't been able to get to before? I think that's a great opportunity with moving Star Trek into the future. And I'm really excited to see the development arc of these characters. One of the things that really struck me in the trailer is how much more human Seven of Nine seems. She doesn't have that reserved, robotic kind of stiffness that she had pretty much throughout the entire run of Voyager. She became a little more expressive as the show went on, but she was still very stiff by the end of it. And when we see her in the trailer, she's got a wry grin on her face. She's drinking scotch with Picard. She says, "What the hell are you doing here?" She seems a lot more comfortable with her humanity, and I think that's a fantastic thing to see from that character. I think that that's something that all of us wanted to see for that character, was to see her mature into comfort with her own humanity. It was part of her fundamental struggle. So that sort of thing is great. Obviously, I already talked a little bit about what kind of development I hope to see from Data and B4, either or, as the case may be. I'm legitimately interested to see new stories. It's been a long time since we had our familiar Star Trek universe to play around in. And I think there are stories left to tell. I think there are lots of storytelling opportunities, and I'm just fascinated to see what the writers have got for us. I really like where we're starting off with the Borg and presumably the destruction of Romulus. It's going to be really interesting to see where they go.
Now, here's what I also want to ask you about yourself. So, Argus, can you tell us about yourself and what brought you into the fandom?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in my mid-30s, typical middle-aged nerd. I'm too young to have ever seen the original series. But Next Generation, I first encountered actually not on television, but via the novels. I was a voracious reader as a kid. I read absolutely everything I could get my hands on. I developed a fondness for science fiction pretty early on. I cut my teeth on Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and sort of all of these classics. And I would buy any book that had a starship on the cover after a little while. And, you do that for a while, and eventually you're going to walk into a bookstore and you're going to see the Enterprise on the cover of a book, and you're going to pick it up off the shelf. And so there's mass market paperbacks that they made to go along with Trek back in the late 80s and the early 90s. That was sort of my introduction to the brand. And I think I had been reading those.
Oh, wait, we got a red alert.
Oh, heavens.
We got a red alert that you know what time that is.
Oh, God. I have no idea, but it sounds dangerous.
It's trivia time. So we're gonna pit the two of you against each other. Hopefully these questions are great enough for the show. If not, we'll re-record with better questions. Just kidding. I've got 5 questions here. Each question pertains to one episode of each of the 5 original series. But we've got the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise represented in these questions.
Okay.
Question 1. In the Deep Space Nine episode, Little Green Men, how do we find out that Odo tagged along with Quark, Rom, and Nog to 1947?
Well, he was a bag. He was a bag, or had turned himself into a duffel bag. I don't recall why. No, I can picture the whole episode, but I don't recall the motivation behind it. But I do remember if I recall, he was some kind of bag of something.
Argus?
Oh, man, I feel like I should have the answer to that, but honestly, you're a little bit ahead of me on remembering that he was a bag. I knew that he had shapeshifted and tagged along, but I couldn't remember into what. and I certainly don't remember what forced him to reveal himself. I got nothing.
He reveals himself by jumping onto Quark as a German Shepherd and shapeshifting into Odo.
That's right.
Dang it. He became a bag on one of the episodes. I know that. I forgot about the dog.
He was also handcuffs in an episode where Kira was supposed to be a prisoner. Next question. In the original series episode, The Doomsday Machine, how does Commodore Decker die?
Yeah, I'm not even going to pretend to have a clue. I'm so bad with the original series, it's shameful.
I was going to give you this one, Argus. I was going to give you this one. So Commodore Decker, he was on a shuttle. He took a shuttle from his ship, and he flew the shuttle into the maw of the Doomsday Machine.
That is correct.
All right. I still got a chance here. You're only one up.
In the Next Generation episode, Captain's Holiday, if you don't recall, that's where Picard goes to Risa, and if you don't recall, the rest of the question is irrelevant. The Vorgons declare that history recorded Jean-Luc Picard as destroying what artifact?
The Tox Utot.
Correct.
I couldn't get my finger to unmute me fast enough.
I'm actually gonna... All right, next question. In the Voyager episode Fury, how is Angry Kess talked down from destroying Voyager?
Oh my God. I know this one.
The sun's going down, big guy. Oh, wait, no, sorry, wrong franchise.
The sun's
I don't remember.
In that episode, she's talked down by, and some people might call this corny, a hologram of her past self, reminding her how wonderful it was to be on Voyager.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, man.
All right.
I must be rusty.
It's still anybody's game. The score is 1-1 for the tie, and I'm going to give Argus the chance to answer first, or for the win.
What?
Boo.
In Enterprise episode Broken Bow, the premiere episode, how does the Klingon Klang evade his Suliban pursuers in the cornfield?
Oh my gosh, it would be a question about the pilot. You want to talk about the episode I paid the least attention to of that show.
Big J?
He ran into a grain silo, and then just as the Suliban were coming in, he jumped out and then shot the silo, blew that up, and the Suliban that were in it.
That is correct.
Congratulations. I bow to the superior Trek knowledge.
Thank you. Well, some of those were kind of tough. It's like I knew them, but it just, the brain was not synapsing or whatever. But Argus, I want to go back to a statement you just made. So Broken Bow, you paid less attention to that than These Are the Voyages?
Believe it or not, yes. And I will tell you why. I did not watch Enterprise when it was actually on the air. As a matter of fact, I didn't watch most of post TNG Star Trek when it was on the air. I watched Deep Space Nine and just got mad at it. It wasn't until several years later that I went back and I watched the rest of the series, and that included Enterprise. And obviously I've been back to it several times since then. And, when I start a rewatch, the pilot is kind of perfunctory. I don't pay nearly as much attention to it because I know how much is out in front of me. But for a series finale, that's always kind of bittersweet when I come up on the end of a rewatch. I think I've been through Enterprise, 3 times now, if I'm not mistaken. And the pilot never holds me nearly as much as the rest of the show does. I don't know, just because I know I've got an abundance of riches before me.
Right. Yeah, I guess I can understand that. It's sort of like when you do a rewatch, and that's the tough thing, because you know what's going to happen, so you find yourself kind of just biding your time, looking forward to the moments like in TNG, you're waiting for the show to grow the beard, waiting for Riker to grow the beard. And in DS9, you're waiting for Cisco to grow the goatee and shave the head. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I rewatched Voyager, it was you're waiting for 7 of 9 to come on because you know that, well, when she's gone, Cass is out, which is, something to look forward to there. But for Enterprise, I don't know. I it's tough to say when it had its growing the beard moment, and I want to say it was with season 3. I know that's kind of a unpopular opinion, but I really think that besides them doing the up tempo of the song, which did not of the intro, which did not match the tone of the season, I really think that the whole Xindi thing was good. That's when Enterprise for me got good. But you're hard pressed to find anyone who would agree with that.
It's funny to me that you perceive that opinion as being in the minority, because I perceive that as absolutely being the majority. What I hear over and over again is that people love the Xindi War. Me personally, the parts of Enterprise that I most enjoyed were, I think it gelled fairly well by about halfway through season 1. I don't think it took them real long to sort of find their footing. And when they were in, sort of, I don't want to say monster of the week, but a more episodic sort of frame of mind from about halfway through season 1 through the end of season 2. I really enjoyed that, and then I really enjoyed season 4 when it seemed like they just didn't care at all anymore and were going to throw whatever insanity they could up against the wall to see what would stick. The Xindi arc was never really what did it for me, but that's always what I hear people say that they love most about Enterprise. So it's interesting to me that you kind of feel like that opinion's in the minority.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. That's interesting. It just kind of seems like it is. So going back to your community that you're on, in your mind and in your opinion, what is the future? Like, what are the goals that you have for that community? What would you like to see happen with there on reddit.com/r/Picard?
Me personally, I sincerely just want it to be a place where people can come and talk about the show. I am enormously excited for this show. I've made no bones about the fact that Discovery just really did not do it for me for a variety of reasons. And I am unbelievably happy to see Star Trek going back to the main timeline in the main universe in the future again. That's great.
Star Trek is going back to the future.
Oh, that's great.
We're going too easy.
Way too easy. Yeah, that was softball right there.
No, I'm thrilled to see the show coming out. I really want this to be a place for people to talk about it. And, it doesn't all have to be like great gushing praise about the show either. I want it to be a place for honest conversation about the show. If they put this out and, it's all of this awesome trailer stuff, and then episode 2 is just a one shot of Patrick Stewart's butt for an hour. Like, it's okay to get on the subreddit and say that was dumb and they shouldn't have done that. Right. So I really want it to be a community for the fans to talk about the show, to share enthusiasm for the show. And, I can't tell you how cool it is that you guys are being paid attention to by actual cast members, because I think every fan's dream is to, kind of foster something that might somehow impact the show. And Reddit is a pretty big platform, and it draws a lot of people and a lot of eyeballs. And so, my hope is that the people who are actually working on the show can come and, maybe not actually look at the subreddit, but to the extent that we can affect the zeitgeist, hear that they're doing a great job, or, hear that maybe they should tweak this one thing or whatever it is. That feedback between fan and creator is something I think is super valuable. And maybe we can echo out enough into the internet that will actually, be heard.
At my lowest standard, all I want is a couple of AMAs from the cast between now and then. At my highest standard, I would like to see the fandom of Star Trek discover Reddit and totally just annihilate the Star Wars fandom.
That's a tall order. That's a tall order.
Highest standard.
I would love to see that too, but prequel memes posts get like 20,000 upvotes, and Star Trek memes posts get like 200 upvotes. Like it's not even close.
Yeah, on a good one, like 200.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, kind of, has there ever been an AMA by any Trek actor on any community there? Because just in passing, just the gleaming glance of it, I can't say that there's ever been a time that's jumped out that has happened. And to be perfectly honest with you, maybe that's not a fair question, because on the flip side, I can't say that I recall any time that anyone from Star Wars did an AMA. So I guess what I was kind of... Oh, really? Okay.
Patrick Stewart has done a couple. Michael Dorn, Brent Spiner, Robert Beltran, who played Chakotay, even
okay.
did an AMA.
Yeah, I know LeVar Burton has done a couple of AMAs. I remember specifically when he relaunched Reading Rainbow, he did an AMA. So maybe not Trek affiliated, but he's definitely done them and definitely fielded questions about Trek when he did.
Is that on your radar? I mean, would you say that has the internal management of your community even brought up or tossed around that idea of, hey, maybe that we could make this something? Let's shoot for an AMA, or is it just kind of a feeling of, we're not going to be able to get a star to sniff at a community that's less than 100,000, much less knowing just kind of the reputation of toxicity that these communities, especially these Trek communities, are known to have?
Well, first of all, I would push back against the notion that Star Trek communities on Reddit have a reputation for being toxic. My experience has been quite the opposite. But it's not something that we have talked about yet. But we have been in sort of administrative mode for a little while now. We're in the process of putting together, auto moderator rules to try and help control the influx of, frankly, spam that comes with, getting some additional attention. So, in terms of outreach, it is definitely something that we are interested in, but not something that we've been able to actually put into motion yet. Right.
You got to get that foundation solid, because
yes,
yeah, with more tension, I think comes a little more craziness.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had to, I think, roughly double the size of the moderator team. We were a trending subreddit the other day, which means that there was a link to us on the front page of Reddit.
Congratulations. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see the show getting the additional attention, and obviously us as well. And so, when we saw that happen, we were like, okay, we need to go to some people who have who have a deep love of Star Trek and who have experience moderating fandom subreddits. And we need to pull them in. And I think we brought in 3 or 4 new moderators by the time it was all said and done, if I'm not mistaken. So, at this point, I kind of feel like we are fixing up an old comfy house in anticipation of company.
I love that. That's a good analogy. You're right. Got to get it cleaned up and ready for company, because they're coming. And there's going to be, I'm sure, some competition out there. Probably some perhaps jealousy from other Trek communities that would rather they were the place to go to for Picard. But that's just, it's a very fiefdom oriented place, but it sounds like you guys are doing the good thing, just trying to make it a friendly place for people to visit. I commend you on getting that there's more subscribers coming in. You said you were trending. This is really looks like it's taking off. And has that been something that you guys have settled in on and saying that, well, yeah, what makes a community the official community for something? Just because they want to say it in their sidebar? Is there something like actual, is there some formality, or is it just whoever decides to say it and it's just kind of the Wild West?
It really is the Wild West. When I'm not the original founder of the Picard subreddit. Our oldest mod is actually still on Reddit, but doesn't really pay a whole lot of attention anymore. There's not really any sort of official seal of approval or anything like that. it really is just, who grabs that digital real estate first. And
Right.
me personally, I don't really think of Reddit in terms of a fiefdom. I'm much more of a, my approach is really a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm happy there's Star Trek. I'm happy there's places for people to talk about Star Trek. And I'm happy that, I'm able to help maintain one of the places for the new show that's coming along.
Well, that's great. We really appreciate that. Appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm sure that it's just going to keep going up and up and up. And then once the actual show starts, you're going to have a whole new scope to think about. There's the episode reviews, the discussion posts. You guys are going to have your hands full. I think you're going to have your hands full, and you probably know that. So keep that adult beverage close by. You're going to need it.
Absolutely, it's going to be pandemonium, but in its most fun sense.
And feel free to, come back around, visit us anytime. I'm sure that we will have all kinds of interesting tidbits about the new Picard show to trade.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to discussing it in excruciating detail just as soon as it's there for us to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of, sometimes when we do interviews, we ask if you have any ways that listeners can follow you, if they've got a Twitter account or anything like that. If you're comfortable sharing, totally, we can make a little bit of a blurb about it. If not, Jay will just delete this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, I don't have much in the way of social media accounts. I shut most of it down not too long ago. So, no, I don't really have anything to promote or plug other than the Picard subreddit. Come around, see us, and talk about the show.
And that's reddit.com/r/Picard. Please stop by if you want to get any news, info, videos, anything that has to do with the show Star Trek Picard. You'll find this nice young man here, Argus, is one of the folks that is behind the scenes on that community. So they were trending the other day, getting an influx of subscribers due to all the news that came out of San Diego Comic-Con. So I would certainly encourage all of our listeners to check them out and give them a good reason to say that they are the official community for Star Trek Picard. There's not a official seal of approval, but I think there's no reason why they couldn't claim that they're the official community. So, Argus, thank you so much for coming on with us today and talking about this. The show is really exciting. It's great news, and you're doing a fine thing there in your community.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me. It's been a blast to come on, and I'm definitely rewatching the entire run of the show again before you bring me on next time around, because I can't get spanked at trivia twice in a row.
You've got to bring it. You've got to be ready with your A game, because
I really do.
Dag, the trivia master, is he's got to be reckoned with. He's got some good stuff there.
Your game is deep, good sir. You are devious and wily.
I appreciate that. We're actually going to be starting a streaming game show. It's going to be called The Nth Degree.
That's a great name.
Mm-hmm. I told you. See, I told you, Dag. Great name. It's he's been hard at work on that. Can't wait to see that. It's still in pre-production, but it's going to be happening. But yeah, keep your eyes and ears open for that one, because I think it'll be something pretty special.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, you good luck with you and your community. Godspeed, and just have fun with it.
You want to keep all of your followers engaged.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.